Pleased to be joined by the head coach of Nebraska, Matt Rhule. Year 3, my friend. Went by fast, didn't it?
It sure did. It sure did.
You realize there's a lot of pressure on you because your year 3, whether it be at Temple or Baylor and now at Nebraska, have been magic. Double-digit wins. What do you promise the Cornhusker faithful?
Well, I don't know if I can promise it, but I'm certainly expecting. I'm expecting to be that type of a team. We've kind of followed the same blueprint, and I think our guys are in a position where they expect to win 10 games, 11 games, so they expect to go play in the playoff. I mean, they see what I see, and I see a really good team.
Dana Holgorsen now is your offensive coordinator. The advantages of having somebody with his head coaching experience.
It's unbelievable. I mean, and you know what? He's not intimidated. So like I'll be in a staff meeting, and I'm from New York. I'm Italian. I talk real fast. All right, so we're gonna do this. I'm like, everybody got it? And everyone's like, yes. And Dana's like, Matt, I don't understand what you just said. And I can hear the whole room almost go like, oh, thank goodness. But I can go to him and say, because as you know, like when you're a head coach, I can't call up Dan Lanning and say, what should I do here? There's no one to call. And so having him in the room, hey, what would you do schedule-wise? I'll give you a great example. The week of the bowl game, we always go good on good Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And we were kind of in a fragile state coming off loss to Iowa. And the last week, he's like, man, I would skip the good on good. And, we've practiced a lot. And I was like, well, that's kind of what we do. And I said, well, why? And he said, I think our team's in a position right now where we don't need the defense to beat the offense today. We don't need the offense to beat the defense today. We all need to go out there and practice hard, feel really good about ourselves, walk off the field and play confident. And that's not something I would have done on my own, and we did it, and he was exactly right. And so I love the man. I wanted to coach with him for a long time. We got him here, and I think he's going to make a real difference.
So what's the magic of it? If you start to look, is it the fundamentals to make sure that we all learn exactly what we're trying to coach schematically and all that stuff, or is it the glue of a locker room that comes together and it takes a few years for that to become that bond that you can count on from when adversity strikes?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, if you look at it, I think one thing we mess up today was sometimes we think guys do a great job, but they just have a great job. Some of the best coaches, are coaching their tails off at just tough places. We went to Temple. It wasn't a great job. We had to rebuild the roster. We were moving up in conferences. We had to watch those freshmen that we were playing. They got their tails beat the first year. They won a few their second year. By their third year, they were like, all right, I got it. We went to Baylor. It was the worst scandal in terms of players in a long time, and we lost 45 players. So we just had a bad team, and we rebuilt it. Got the second year. They started to win some games, and then the third year, man, we went after everybody. And so, it wasn't as bad when I got to Nebraska, but it wasn't a great situation. It wasn't a great roster, and those guys fought. They've worked. We've played some young players, and now here they are. They're juniors. They're seniors. They know what to expect. And as you said, when adversity strikes, the last couple of years at Nebraska, man, when it's a close game, everyone's panicked. And I even saw it in the bowl game. And we were up, and all of a sudden they come back, and it's 4th and 2. We got to make the 4th and 2 to win the game, and there was no doubt that our guys were going to make that play. And so I think it's a little bit like just kind of the jobs we took over weren't in a great place, so we had to do a lot of work. But it's also the guys getting to the point where they say, you know what, I'm going to make us win.
It's almost heresy to say Nebraska isn't a great job, given what we all have watched Nebraska do over our lifetimes in the world of college football. And yet it was 2016, the last time they were in a bowl game before you took them to the Pinstripe Bowl and beat Boston College last year. Were you looking for what the problems were when you were looking at the job to see if they were fixable?
Absolutely. And Trev Alberts did a great job of convincing me that as we moved forward into this new era of college sports where we were going to start rev sharing. And right now it's $20.5 million to athletes. It's going to jump up every year.
Yep.
He really showed me the financials. He showed me, like, listen, look at Nebraska. At the time, we were the only Big Ten school with no debt. We sell out every game. We have a fan base unparalleled. We just built the best facility in college sports that was started really before all this happened. So, when I walked in there, it was not a very good job, but I could see that it was going to be a good job. And now it's a really good job, and we're turning it into a great job. We have the best facilities. We have a tremendous fan base, the new financial model. One of the things, Coach, is like people that are like, Nebraska, like, isn't that in a cornfield? And they get there and they're like, no, wait a minute, look at this place. Like there's restaurants and there's a downtown and there's cool things to do. And so we have to get people there, and all of that's really changing. And So I think it's a great job. I'm excited to be there. Like I just have to win enough that I can stay here a long time.
There are those who wonder if Nebraska fits in the Big Ten, right? It was long a Big 8 school. I coached against them when they were in the Big 8 while I was at Colorado. Then we all jumped into the Big 12, and then they left over in a feud with Texas about what would the best course of action going forward in the Big 12, and now in the Big 10. Is it a fit? Do the Nebraska fans now embrace Big Ten membership?
I think they do. I mean, they certainly should. I mean, to me, when I look at football, and I love football, I look at the NFL. They're the most powerful sports entity really that there is, and they're not just national anymore; they're international. And what they figured out is, hey, you know what? We need to have parity. We need to have great teams. We need to go from the West Coast to the East Coast. We need to play games in weather. We need all of these things to make this a sport that everyone wants to follow. And I think what Tony Petitti and the Big Ten has done is they've followed the same model. We're not a regional league. We're a national league. You have to learn how to play in different types of weather. Like twice this year, we'll go to the East Coast and then come back and play a Friday night game. You could complain about that, but that's life in the NFL. That's playing on a Thursday, and I think what it's done is it's prepared our teams, Michigan State and Ohio State. Well, really this year, Ohio State and Penn State, as they got into the playoff. The playoff's going to be a gauntlet. Like you might play the Orange Bowl one week, you might be playing here the next week, and the Big Ten, because it's like the NFL, I think it prepares you for that. And so, Nebraska, we want all of that. We want to be in that.
Ask a global question, because I get asked all the time, having coached in this game, where's the state of college football? They're feeling like they're losing a little bit of the nostalgia of college football. Kids are playing for money rather than the pride of their university. At least that's in the back of their minds. Anything you can offer to dispel that it's a really bright future in the world of college football?
Yeah, no, I think it's a tremendously bright future. I think what we need to do now is we need to invest in the game, and by invest, I'm not even talking money. Just invest in making the right decisions for the game moving forward. Because
what are some of those decisions?
Well, I think making sure the transfer portals and are at the right time, making sure that kids aren't playing at 4 different schools over 4 different years, like. That's not in the best for their academic development. It's not the best for their sports development. You see a lot of that right now because of the model that's been there. I think as we move into revenue sharing and things get a little bit more formalized, I think you'll see kids. My son's a freshman at Nebraska. Just finished his freshman year, just a student. If he wasn't happy, I'd say, okay, let's go to another school. So I don't think there's anything wrong with transferring, but I don't want guys transferring 3, 4, 5 times. And so I think the revenue sharing model, I think that's going to make things stable and a little bit more transparent.
I want to ask some questions about Nebraska, but I'm fascinated with this because I've been in some conversations with current coaches, and they say it will be much better for all of us if we get these kids on contracts where we know how long they're going to be here. If they're unhappy, we can work with that. But we need to make sure that our rosters are secure. So that, plus, when you're talking about $20.5 million as the pool, however much of that is going to be devoted to football, you need now to make sure that somebody that you're paying from January to April doesn't walk out the door because that money's not replenished.
No, I agree with that. I think, contracts, and we're signing them to rev share, MOU type contracts now, but at the end of the day, I think they have to work both ways. People will sometimes point out, well, coach, you transfer jobs, but we paid a buyout. There was a financial component to it, and so there's way too much at risk now to not have it be what it should be. Like, hey, if you're coming here, you're signing a 3-year deal, I want you here for 3 years. If you're signing a 1-year deal, I want you here for 1 year. The thing that I always worry about is so many of these kids are making financial decisions without really understanding money. They'd rather sign a 1-year deal, like I'm going to get a big deal next year, and then they get hurt, and now they have nothing. So I would much prefer contracts. I much prefer like agent regulations so that we make sure that these kids are making the right decisions. They're covered. As universities, we're covered. We know who our roster is going to be, and if we're going to do it, let's do it right.
I remember being with Tom Osborne, sitting there getting kind of big-eyed. Here I am in a room with Tom Osborne and talking about, so what are the Nebraska fans like? I keep hearing all these wonderful things about them. I've been there. They were nice to me. Of course, it was easy to be nice to me because they were whipping me. But how would you describe the Nebraska fan?
Unbelievably passionate. They care so much. They come an hour early to watch warm-ups because they want to support all the Huskers, even the kids who aren't getting in the game. It's the coolest thing I've ever seen. with passion always comes, there's, hey, if you don't win, you're going to hear about it. But that's what I want. That's why I went to Nebraska. I want to go somewhere where football and athletics are important to every person in the state. And I think the great thing about Nebraska, like, as you're coaching a game, that there's someone sitting in a tractor somewhere in western Nebraska, or a radio on their side as they're doing whatever they're doing, working hard. That just feels pride with the way that you guys are doing things. And so it's been awesome. They've been great to my family. I mean, Julie and I were out. She has a business. We're out in the community. People are great to our kids. It's really been the best of the best.
It's fantastic. Coolest of the cool. Just like Matt Rhule. Our thanks.